Today on an all-new Dr. Phil, they accuse his ex-wife.
Did she tell the boys she was not going to live?
She has. Of faking cancer.
You put our producer on the phone with a nurse.
Sharon.
There's no Sharon that works at that hospital.
And over-medicating the kids.
This says emergency only. You've upped the dose to every night.
I would never intentionally hurt my children.
I don't think you're being fully candid with me. Let's do it.
Have a good show, everybody. Here we go.
This is a safe place to talk about hard things.
Stand by. We'll count you down.
Today's going to be a changing day in your life.
5, 4.
I am not giving up on you. To me with a problem that I'm sure many can relate to. She says she cannot stand her husband's ex-wife and accuses her of alienating her from the children. Sound familiar? Yeah, all too familiar. Well, the similarities will probably end there because the accusations get a lot more serious. Amber also believes her husband's ex, Carrie, has Munchausen's and Munchausen by proxy. I'll explain as we go along. She claims Carrie is over-medicating the boys, and they have missed at least 71 days of school in 1 year due to mom's lack of parenting. But that's not all. Amber claims Carrie is controlling, narcissistic, and unstable, and has even faked her own cancer. Now, meanwhile, Carrie says Amber can't seem to stay in her place and that Amber wants her kids to herself.
The very first time I met Carrie, she told me to stay away from her kids, you bitch. I think Carrie is jealous of the fact that Marcus and I have a relationship and a loving family. Marcus and Carrie have 2 boys together, ages 10 and 12. I believe Carrie has Munchausen disease and Munchausen by proxy. Carrie's always saying her kids are sick. If the boys are sick, have a cough, her first reaction is to take them to the emergency room. The kids take a lot of different medicines. Nose sprays, inhalers, allergy medicines, pills. Carrie and Marcus's boys have had up to a total of 71 days per year of being absent and tardy at school. It's outrageous. Carrie brainwashes the boys every chance she gets.
She can try to make me out to be the bad guy all you want.
You are.
Has even brought cops to our house saying we were trying to keep the boys from her, and we were not.
You showed up at my house with the cops.
2 weeks after they were supposed to be
Are you
home.
kidding?
No, I'm not.
2 days.
Carrie treats Marcus like crap, calling him a fat loser.
You look like you sit on the couch and eat ice cream all day.
She will call him a deadbeat father in front of the kids. I really think that she's the deadbeat. Carrie refers to me as the fat cow to her boys.
Your wife getting mad at my kids because they didn't give her a kiss or tell her that they love her? So what?
She has also called me a stupid, fake, fat bitch. Marcus and I would like to get custody of the boys. We have a stable home and environment and structured living, and we would like to get the boys.
Well, Marcus says Carrie controls the co-parenting situation. Take a look.
Carrie is controlling, vengeful, manipulative. Carrie's jealous of my relationship with Amber and the fact that we're happy. Carrie and I's relationship is constant fighting and arguing.
It's about you playing games. It's about you think you're in charge. Yeah, that's what it's about.
She doesn't allow for normal co-parenting. Even a simple task turns into a big ordeal.
It's time for them to come on now.
They'll come out when I tell them to.
Then go get them.
I don't want to yet.
My kids are absolutely stuck in the middle.
I wish you would just leave and never come back, really.
Makes me feel very angry. Carrie badmouths Amber to the boys. She's poisoning the well. Carrie likes to name call. Carrie's been stuck on fat.
This packing on pounds thing, is that what you like to do now? You're
This sickly anorexic thing, is that what you're going for?
I do believe that Carrie has Munchausen and Munchausen by proxy. Something as simple as a headache or a stomach ache turns into hospital visit and more medication. My boys are not unhealthy. I think Carrie does this because she needs to feel like she's the one taking care of them. She has to feel important. I'm not very happy with the living conditions she has for them right now. They live with Carrie's parents. It's a small house. There's not enough space. They have clean issues. When I pick them up, their legs and arms have been eaten up by bugs. I believe they're in an unhealthy situation with Carrie. Right now, I'm at a point where I'm willing to fight hard for full custody.
Okay, Marcus, why do you think you should have full custody?
I think the boys would be safer at my house, healthier at my house.
So you think they're in danger with her? Do you think she would actually hurt them on purpose?
Not knowingly, not on purpose, but with a condition that allows her not to know that she's doing it.
And that condition is what?
We believe it's Munchausen.
That's a very serious disorder.
Yes.
Just so everybody knows, the Munchausen syndrome refers to the most severe and chronic physical form of a group of disorders called factitious disorders. It does include, in part, making yourself sick or causing yourself to exaggerate symptoms or over-dramatize. For example, dramatic, inconsistent medical history.
That's very much what she does with the medicines.
Falsely fabricate medical records, unclear symptoms or relapses that become more severe with treatment or after negative tests. Like they'll test and say there's nothing wrong, but then the symptoms get even more severe. When we're talking about this imposed on others, then all of these sort of things are pushed on somebody else. They use this on the kids. Do you think that's happening with your boys?
Yes.
Is she over-medicating the boys?
I do believe she is.
And what is the custody arrangement now?
I have first, third, and fifth weekends of the month.
They're basically with her.
Right.
And you get every other weekend.
Right.
Okay, if she's such a terrible parent, why is that the case?
When we agreed upon this, I wasn't in a place to take them.
So you agreed to this?
Yes.
And she says you weren't much of a dad to begin with. Is that true?
I can't argue too much about their early life. I wasn't.
You say that you agreed to that then because you weren't in a position to be a responsible, ever-present father, but now you are. You've cleaned your act up.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you think that she is introducing some negative mental, emotional experiences for these boys.
Absolutely.
Has she claimed that she had cancer?
Yes.
Did she?
She's claimed it 3 times since I've known her.
Did she have cancer?
I'm not a doctor. I don't believe that she had. And I
Did she
haven't
tell
seen
the
any
boys
proof.
she was not going to live?
She has.
She told him, I'm dying of cancer.
Yes.
Right. Stage 3, I believe.
Stage 3 cervical cancer.
Yes.
And did she also say it was metastasized, that it had gone into her lymph nodes in her abdomen and that it had spread throughout her body?
It had spread, yes.
Did she tell him that she had had 8 miscarriages?
And that they were buried in a cemetery down the road from her parents' house.
And you think she badmouthed you?
Oh, I know she badmouths me.
All right, when we come back, we meet Marcus's ex-wife and hear what she has to say about the fact that Amber and Marcus want full custody of her boys. We'll talk about that next.
Amber's just trying to take my place. My kids have told me Amber wants them to call her mom. That makes me incredibly furious. I'm their only mom.
And later, this has to stop.
That doesn't mean text me through his phone.
Well, you know what? You can play the victim here, or you can put on your mommy pants and grow up.
Monday on an all-new Dr. Phil. She says her stepmom is evil.
You think she's a hoarder?
Oh, I know she is. She hoards animals, too.
Her dad is fed up.
I've moved into the garage.
Most of the time, you're not sober.
He's sober right now. Let him talk.
You need to mind your own business.
This is my business.
And the house is disgusting.
It is no way to raise a child in that squalor.
I will be there for that baby.
Well, if you're going to be there for that baby, then get a front-end loader and clean that house out.
That's Monday.
Carrie claims that she stuck my son with an EpiPen in the middle of the night, and she had never done it before. Carrie watched him sleep at night, told me that he had stopped breathing, so she stabbed him with an EpiPen while he was sleeping. He didn't wake up. An EpiPen is a needle. If somebody stuck you with a needle while you're asleep, you're gonna feel it. I think Carrie made up this whole thing so that she could look like the good mother that saved her son. That way it looks like Carrie's taking better care of the boys.
Well, Marcus is concerned his ex-wife Carrie is over-medicating their two boys, but Carrie says she is a great mom, and the real problem here is Amber, who is constantly meddling in the middle. Take a look.
Amber has always been too involved with my business, with my ex-husband. Amber is two-faced. Amber is just trying to take my place. The first time I met Amber, I stuck my head in her door and I told her, you need to stay the hell away from my kids. Marcus and Amber are constantly telling me they're a better parent than I am. The one thing that I'm great at is being a mom. My kids have told me Amber wants them to call her mom. That makes me incredibly furious. I'm their only mom. Marcus does pay child support, but it is not consistent and it is very difficult to get any money from him.
You don't pay for child support. I know you gotta have
I pay
plenty.
exactly what I'm supposed to pay.
Marcus tends to always be volatile, angry at something or someone. I have called Amber and Marcus names. I've called Amber fat cow before. I've talked about Marcus's turkey neck. I want to hurt them in the moment. My kids do have a lot of allergies and asthma. It is ongoing. The boys used to have nebulizer treatments twice a day, nose spray, 2 different pills, and 2 different inhalers. And that was every day. I've always been on top of all their medications and dosage. I take them to just about all of their doctor's appointments. I take that responsibility very seriously. Amber has told me that my children are her children. I do believe that Amber would love to get my kids to herself, and that is definitely over my dead body. There is no way that I will ever let that happen.
All right, Carrie, thanks for being here. At this point, you think these two are toxic for your boys?
I do think, in a way, they are toxic.
Okay. And do you think Amber in particular is toxic for your boys?
She tends to be the kind of instigator, the ringleader.
Does she stir the drama?
Yes.
Do you think she talks bad about you to your children?
Yes, I know she does.
Okay, and they've told you that?
Yes.
I went through everything that you said and made a list of your complaints about Amber, so I want to go through those about Marcus and Amber both. According to Carrie, you say Marcus and Amber cause fights in front of the children. They alienate you from the children, which we just talked about, that Marcus doesn't pay attention to the children, and that Amber takes away their technology as punishment. Sometimes they're electronics and toys, that sort of things. That they always have strangers living with them, that they trash talk you in front of the boys, refers to your sons as her children, and the children return with cuts and scrapes, and that they have to sleep on the floor.
When they came to my house for the weekend, and you've got 4 boys that love to play with and like to be around each other, they would pick to sleep on the floor all together, watch TV, and they'd fall asleep in the bedroom.
Go home.
Returning with cuts and scrapes.
Never.
They're boys, they play on their bikes and just having fun with friends that live in our neighborhood.
As far as the strangers, there are no strangers living in my home. One was my biological brother for about 4 to 6 months, and the other one was a friend from Europe that we brought here from a mission trip that we took in March. We do not talk trash about Carrie. We will talk to the boys with them about Carrie. It's like the instance they told me that Carrie said, I'm not their stepmom and technically not part of their family. We had a discussion about it because that's not right. I am their stepmom.
You know, we heard you say that you wanted her to stay out of your boys' lives.
In the beginning, when I first found out about Amber, I was dating Marcus. He was coming.
Y'all divorced in 09, and
I'm
y'all
aware of
separated in
that.
07.
And we were dating.
That was 2011. Okay.
He was coming to my house every other weekend and staying with me. So, yeah, it disturbed me because I was like, who is this woman? And so I did say that. I said, you need to stay away from my kids.
You guys had an exchange with regard to custody. Let's take a look at this.
I wish you would just leave and never come back.
Wish you would leave and never come back?
Okay, it makes sense now. That was one of those little, me and Marcus having an argument and him videotaping, you know, you cut me down and cut me down. You know,
like when I get told how bad of a dad I am, how bad of a father I am.
It's always two on one.
Handle my situation.
It is always 2 on 1, always.
Coming up, Amber says that she does not believe that Carrie battled cancer in 2012 and that she faked it for attention. Carrie says, not true. We're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about the children's health when we come back. You have had cancer 3 times. You put our producer on the phone with a nurse, Sharon Hodges. She confirmed ovarian cancer. Well, we had one more question, so we called back to that hospital and asked for Sharon Hodges.
You're just a loser, Paul.
You're the failure of a parent. You're the failure of a parent.
Why are you dating a 14-year-old child? That's a 4th-degree felony.
You have no job. You are living in the car.
I have 2 vehicles.
Does the other one have a windshield?
My stepdad is guilty of molesting me and my sisters.
You know what you did.
I didn't do what you said I did.
Oh, yes, you did.
Your daughter's 14. You say, I'm giving her dope because all kids smoke dope anyway.
You have messed her up.
You just want to turn it into I'm the bad guy.
You are providing your child with alcohol, allowing her to have sex. You are committing a crime.
Plus, a woman he's never met.
My fiancée, Kimberly, is a truly awesome woman.
She's currently stuck in Amsterdam.
And she needed money to get home.
An act of betrayal.
You didn't send Kim any money?
No, I didn't.
You scammed me out of $200,000, and if I could find you, I'd kill you.
A shocking revelation.
She's not in Amsterdam. She's here. Come on out.
In December of 2012, Carrie claimed to have stage 3 cervical cancer and claimed cancer was in her lymph nodes in her abdomen.
She did throw herself a party. She called it her cancer party. Hair today, gone tomorrow kind of thing.
Carrie went as far as to shave her head and her boys' heads. She was healed quickly. I do not believe Carrie had cancer. I think Carrie did it for attention. She likes big drama, all eyes on her. I think she needs that.
You have had cancer.
Yes.
3 times.
I had it 2009. There was, it was a precancerous cells. It was stage 0 at that point. We had a hysterectomy done then. Then in 2012, I had a laparoscopic procedure where the rest of my ovaries and tubes and some lymph nodes and omentum was removed.
Well, originally you said it was 2007.
5507. 7 was the first. Yes.
Your next bout was in 2012?
Yes.
That's when you had chemo and radiation?
Yes.
And that's when you lost your hair?
Yes.
And you shaved your head?
Yes, we did.
We asked you about this when we talked to you earlier, and here's what you had to say.
So you've had some health issues?
Yes, I've had some health issues in the past.
What happened? What were your health issues?
I had precancerous cells, cervical. When we let me try that again.
So you had, was it cancer?
At that time, we think it was just the precancer at that point. But then about 4 years later, I ended up, how do I even go about that? I'm sorry. Several years later, it was told to me that the cells had developed into cancer. And so we had to do more procedures and treatment that time. And at that time, I did lose my hair, and it was a very scary, emotional time in my life.
But you didn't lose your hair, you shaved your head.
Well, I shaved my head so I wouldn't have the big clumps of hair falling out.
Well, you said you lost your hair, but you didn't. You shaved your head.
In the beginning, I shaved my head to where my hair was very short, yes.
And we asked you about this morning, and you put our producer on the phone with a nurse from the Christus Trinity Mother Frances Hospital in your hometown, right?
Yes.
Sharon Hodges.
Yes.
Who's a nurse there? Was she involved in your treatment?
Yes, I knew her from having visits there.
So when you had your surgery and your chemo and your radiation, she treated you?
Well, she was one of the nurses there.
And so the producer talked to her, and she told the producer that you went through cancer treatments, several months of chemo in 2012, and confirmed ovarian cancer. We asked for Sharon's work email so we can also get an email confirmation, and she wouldn't do that. She said she was worried that she would get in trouble.
I called, and they had told me I needed to sign, records release and things, so I don't know if...
Well, we had one more question for her, so we called back to that hospital and asked for Sharon Hodges.
Okay.
And they said there's no Sharon Hodges that works there. Who is Jenny?
It's her best friend.
One of my friends.
Because when you called Sharon Hodges on your cell phone, the name Jenny came up in the screen.
No, well, yeah, because I know Sharon. That's what I was telling the producer.
But you have Sharon in your cell phone under Jenny?
No. I called Jenny's phone. I said, is this Sharon? She said, no, she said, this is Jenny, Carrie. I was like, oh, I need to talk to Sharon.
Why would Sharon be with Jenny?
Because we were all friends. Does that not make sense?
Not at all.
Okay.
The truth is, there's no Sharon Hodges that works at that hospital. She doesn't exist. The hospital has no reason to lie about that.
But neither do I. I did have to go through treatment. I did have to go through chemo and radiation.
So when you put our producer on the phone this morning speaking to Sharon Hodges, they were actually speaking to Jenny?
No, that still wasn't Jenny.
Who was it?
Her name is Sharon.
What was she doing at Jenny's house?
Neighbors now. I know it seems so coincidental.
I'm just hoping you'll clear it up for me so I can understand.
Well, I'm kind of confused at the same time, so I don't really know how I can clear things up for you.
Coming up, Amber and Marcus claim Carrie has Munchausen by proxy because of the way she over-medicates her sons. I'm going to ask her about that after the break. See, this says 1.5 emergency only, and you've upped the dose.
I didn't change the dose.
And it's the wrong child.
I would never intentionally hurt my children.
I'm just saying there's some fishy stuff going on here about medical perception. I'm looking at this from a judgment standpoint, and when I look at your medication of your children, that seems really inconsistent as well. The instructions on the bottle here for your 12-year-old say that this medication, montelukast 1 tab nightly for your 12-year-old, and how do you pronounce this one?
Desloratadine.
Desloratadine, take 1/2 tab by mouth daily. The 10-year-old, prednisone, take 1.5 tablets as needed for emergency plan only for the 10-year-old. And then you've got over here, you're telling them to give it to the 12-year-old 2.5 every night.
The reason he was taking the prednisone is because if he had had an allergic reaction, he starts his emergency protocols. And that is what is listed on his emergency protocols that he follows for several days. They both have the same medications. I understand that one on this screen, one is saying it's a 12-year-old's, but one is saying it's a 10-year-old's. But they have the same medicines. And they're prescribed the same medicines.
See, this says 1.5 emergency only.
Right.
And you've upped the dose to 2.5 every night.
I didn't change the dose.
And it's the wrong child.
Right, it's a different child, it's a different dose. It didn't come from me, it was the doctor's, that was what the doctor's notes had told me to do. His emergency plan is in the paperwork that I provided.
All we have are your instructions. That's all you gave us. And then the bottles, which are different from what you say to do.
I would never intentionally hurt my children or over-medicate as...
Well, I think you would do what you thought was the right thing to do. I don't think you would hurt your children on purpose. Don't hear me saying that, because I'm not.
I understand that. But, you know, I'm
just saying there's some fishy stuff going on here about medical perception.
I'm not going to mess with my children's medications. My kids are my entire world, and they're all I have.
I'm concerned about the conduct the three of you are having with regard to this tug-of-war and fighting in front of the children. And we have some examples of that. This is what the kids are subject to.
You can try to make me out to be the bad guy all you want.
You are.
You showed up at my house with the cops.
2 weeks after they were supposed to be home.
Are you kidding?
No, I'm not.
2 days.
You look like you sit on the couch and eat ice cream all day. Is this packing on pounds thing, is that what you like to do now?
This sickly anorexic thing, is that what you're going for? It's time for them to come on now.
They'll come out when I tell them to.
Then go get them.
I don't want to yet. I wish you would just leave and never come back, really.
Just how are Marcus and Carrie's boys being impacted by their parents' constant fighting? We're going to hear what they have to say next. Well, Carrie says Marcus and Amber will get custody of her boys, quote, over her dead body. But how do the children feel about all the fighting between 3 adults? Whose side are they on? Take a look.
I do think my parents fight more than other parents. It hurts, and I don't like them fighting. It affects me emotionally. I've heard them, but I never got what they were saying, so I never really understood it.
When Child Protective Services, for example, comes in and looks at the fitness of a parent, they look at 10 different factors. And number one, they look to see if you're able to provide a safe, stable, secure environment. That's mentally, emotionally, physically, all of that. Are you able to do that? Do you maintain a loving, stable, consistent, and nurturing relationship with the child? Are you attending to the daily needs of the child, such as feeding, clothing, and physical care? Do you attend to the adequate education for the child? Are you providing for the financial support of the child, the ability to identify and prioritize their needs ahead of your own? Do you empathize with and meet the child's needs? Do you have any ability to regulate your impulses and emotions instead of just letting them fly and just no impulse control? Can you assist them in developing and maintaining appropriate interpersonal relationships? Do you exercise appropriate judgment regarding their welfare? And I guarantee you, if I go through here and grade y'all's paper, you get about a D-. This has to stop.
Mm-hmm. Agree.
This has to stop. Your role in this is the hardest of all. What you can do is support him in fathering his children. She's the mother, he's the father, you support the father. And in so doing, you support the mother because they should be on the same set of values and principles in raising these children.
Sure. That doesn't mean text me through his phone.
Are you not listening?
Yes, sir, I am. I didn't want to come out here feeling like it's 2-on-1, but yet it's always like that.
Well, you know what? You can play the victim here, or you can put on your mommy pants and grow up. Because you keep this erratic victim behavior up, and you're going to wind up losing your children. And that needs not to happen. You need to grow up, and you need to deal with these children in a mature fashion. And you have not been forthcoming with me, and I am trying to be as supportive as you as I can be. And you need to hear what I'm telling you. You need to hear what I'm telling you. There is nobody working harder for you right now in this room than me. And you need to hear me, because I know what's around the next corner if you don't stop what you're doing and start doing what you need to be doing. We'll be right back. You are using these boys as pawns. You are using their medical circumstance and situation to dramatize your relationship with them. You're using your own medical situation to dramatize your life and your situation. And you can roll your eyes and get sanctimonious all you want, but I'm going to tell you what, if they decide to drag you back to court and they appoint an ad litem for these children, that is somebody that does not work for you, does not work for him, but they investigate this situation, they're going to find out whether there's a Sharon Hodges or whether there's not. They're going to find out whether you had metastasized cancer or whether you didn't. They're going to bring all of that to bear, and the truth is going to come out, and then somebody's going to say, this woman is not stable enough to be in the position that she is in. You don't want that to happen. What you want to happen is to work from this point forward. You don't want a lot of scrutiny right now, so you don't want to go there. What you want to do is work from this point forward. And what you want to do is not prove her wrong. What you want to do is say, let's behave like adults and stop arguing. You don't need to go back to court. You don't want the government in your family. You have no idea what they're going to do. Work this out between you.
He's already filed papers for court.
Work this out between you. You'll be so much happier if you do, believe me.
That's why we wrote into the show.
So please, I will get you a family counselor that will sit down and work out a co-parenting plan and tell you where the pitfalls are and how to make this work, and they will monitor you until you get it right. I will get you that person to do that. Will you participate in that?
Absolutely.
Will you participate in that?
Yes, I will.
Your enthusiasm is underwhelming. That's better. Coming up, a wife who says she has been home taking care of her sick husband for the past 7 years, and that has taken all of the romance out of their relationship. That story next. Finding love, getting married, and raising a happy, healthy family is a life goal for most of us. But what happens when the person you married is stricken with a serious illness and your primary role changes from spouse to caregiver? Well, that's exactly what happened to my next guest, Deb. She and her husband, Rodney, have been married 22 years and have 2 teenage children. Then in 2000, Rodney was diagnosed with a rare genetic disorder. Now, for the family, and especially Deb, life and marriage would never be the same.
My husband, Rodney, is the love of my life. Since Rodney became ill, my relationship has changed from wife to primary caregiver. It's necessary to care for him on a daily basis in a way that I was never expecting.
That looks good.
What I do for Rodney on a typical day is a lot of food preparation. I also take care of his medications. I'm often overwhelmed with the day-to-day life of caregiving. Many times I feel I don't have the energy for my children's needs. It's not fair because they need me too. All right, dear, it's on the table. Got your oxygen? There really isn't a whole lot of time left for me after I care for Rodney and the kids. I really don't remember the last time I did something for myself. I am determined not to let caregiving become my sole identity. If I had a job, that would be a different scenario, but this is my job. My main concern is keeping Rodney alive on a daily basis. I will never give up on Rodney. That's what love is. Love you.
Love you too.
Well, joining me are Deb, as well as AARP caregiving expert and psychologist, Dr. Barry Jacobs. So welcome to both of you. Thanks for being here. So, Deb, I know this is a challenge. So what are some of the difficulties you experience as a spousal caregiver?
Certainly, one of the difficulties is I was expecting a partnership when we got married. That was what we agreed to. There's also the difficulty with intimacy. And also, there's just an awful lot of grief about the life that we lost.
Dr. Jacobs, how big a problem is this in families today, the way people are living their lives?
Situations like Deb are increasingly common as the American population ages. If you aren't presently a caregiver, at some point in your life, you're likely to be a caregiver, or you're likely to need a caregiver. Right. Unfortunately, spousal caregivers have it the toughest. As Deb mentioned, it's not just that the caregiving work itself is so hard, but it's that the loss of intimacy with a partner occurs very, very often.
So what kind of effect can that have on the marriage?
We know that the nationwide divorce rate is around 40%, but among couples dealing with serious chronic illness, that rate is certainly higher.
So is there something people like Deb can do to help them feel less alone and less stressed?
Absolutely. So AARP has a toll-free helpline for caregivers to call Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Time, to provide information and resources. And there's a great website specifically for spousal caregivers, wellspouse.org.
And when they call or go to that website, what are they going to get?
They're going to be able to get information about local resources in their community, as well as just to hear an understanding voice about the kinds of things that spousal caregivers go through.
Okay. I think it's so important that you've got to take care of yourself and prioritize, right? I know that sounds like a cliche.
It's very difficult.
Well, I know it's difficult. You know, this is something that Robin talks about a lot. Robin, you say this all the time about taking care of yourself, true?
I'm the matriarch of our family. I have a very important job to do and have over the years. And if I don't take care of myself, if I don't put myself at the top of the list, then I won't be able to do my job. And that's to take care of those I love. So I live it every day. I put myself first so I can take care of others.
And, you know, sometimes you can feel selfish doing that, but you really can't. And you can't give away what you don't have.
That's true, too.
And if you let yourself become emotionally bankrupt, if all you ever do are make withdrawals, and you don't ever take time to make deposits back into that account, that you can wind up being emotionally bankrupt, and then you just don't have it.
Also physically sick. That also happens to people.
Absolutely. And there's another resource, because Dr. Jacobs has co-authored with his wife a great book for AARP, and it's Meditations for Caregivers. And what inspired you and your wife to write this book?
We know that caregivers in the midst of really difficult caregiving can lose their sense of identity and neglect themselves, and that then makes them prone to burning out and needing care for themselves. So we decided to write a book that would provide inspiration and emotional motivation for caregivers to help minimize the strains and maximize the possible gains of taking care of a loved one.
Look, this book has stories of hope, advice on ways to minimize stress, and suggestions on how to bring joy and relief to a difficult situation. It's like you have to make an appointment with yourself. You've got to make that appointment, set that time aside, where it's meditation, relaxation, whatever you've got to do, you've got to set that time aside for yourself. It's not easy.
No, it's not easy, but it is easy to lose yourself.
Yeah, it is. Listen, if you or someone you know is taking care of a sick or older loved one, there are resources and help out there. Now, one of the best places to start is aarp.org/caregiving. Now, they have an online caregiving community you can chat with, and aarp.org is a great website in general. I strongly recommend it for anyone, and it doesn't matter what age you are. And audience, because Dr. Jacobs said, if you're not caring for a loved one today, you probably will at some point. Everyone in the audience is going home with a copy of his AARP book, Meditations for Caregivers. All right? I want to thank all of my guests today, and a special thanks to AARP and Dr. Barry Jacobs. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time. Deb, thank you so much.